What's going on, everyone? This is Sherry, and you are tuned into She Said What She Said, the podcast where we interview badass women in the sports world and beyond. And we're on a little early today. I had to try to figure out my lighting when there's light out. But good problem to have, guys, because, not too long ago it was nice and dark at this time. So I'll take it. I'll take it. And yep, we doing a little early today, but that's just fine. Always happy to try to get our guests in when they can get in because we got some good people coming on and looking forward to today's as well. But I am going to bring in my number one bae because damn, that girl can slay. Hey, Faye.
Hi, woo, what's going on, Sherry?
How are you?
I am amazing. How are you?
Doing good.
Good. How's the leg or the foot's kind of healing a little bit?
Yeah. It helps to have an on-call PT. And so did switch to the soft brace today from the hard-sided brace. Did get roped into volunteering to drive him to O'Hare. So I guess we give and take with our friends, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't really do O'Hare runs, but
yeah, I live right here now, so it's 10 minutes for me. So it's so easy. And not that I'm saying that I can be anyone's Uber, but when it's meant to like to pick someone up or something, it's not so bad. But yeah, with a bump. So it's your left foot?
Right ankle.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm. Ooh, and you were able to drive?
Well, I won't be taking him until like May. It was
just like, got it.
Hey, just booked my flight to Italy, by the way.
You'll be better by then.
Owe me some favors. I'm like, I do. I mean,
you're gonna have a few. Well, and I just think that you would anyways, even if it wasn't a payback.
I would. It's one of my best friends.
Yeah. So there you go. That's excellent. Well, good to hear.
It's not business. It's pleasure when he gets to touch my feet.
Oh, love that. Love that. That's amazing.
I'm pretty sure he threw up in his mouth a little bit.
I doubt it. He probably loves it. That's why people become PTs because,
they love fetishes.
Yeah. Podiatrists especially, there must be some kind of foot fetish because feet aren't the greatest thing in the world. I mean, as much as I love having my feet touched.
Right. Someone else is doing it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love it. But enough about foot fetishes.
Okay, yeah, because that has nothing to do. Maybe we'll find out some new things about her today.
You never know.
So today we have the fabulous Miss Debra Evans, who in title is the Director of Medical Program Management and Specialty Products at AbbVie Pharmaceuticals.
I couldn't fit that all in the
title. It's a long title. It sounds really important, and I agree that it is, and which I think is amazing. So we can find out because especially right now. The pharmaceutical world and drugs and all things are really important. And one thing I was going to say as we get into talking about her, because this is important, I think, is that one thing I love about this podcast, aside from you, my bae, is that, we talk to these special women from especially sports. And that's kind of your jam is like you have such a connection with these women who just kill it. And I love that. And, in the sports world and knowing what they do and all this stuff. And I was thinking about this the other day that working together with you and being able to have all of I like to say like our Rolodex of people, being able to bring in women from all types of life. And today, we'll get into Debra's her work with the pharmaceuticals, but her story in general of growth and finding herself and all the things that she's involved with. She does races, so she's a fitness enthusiast. Yes, fitness. So she's an athlete as well. And then we have her. She's really still connected with her sorority ladies, and the fact that she back in the day when she graduated, she was the only woman in engineering, and so I find STEM and the importance of STEM in our children these days, especially women, so important. And I have a couple clients who are engineers, and it's just that because I'm not a math person. I mean, I love math because I love money. And so I find it so important, these things. And so I'm excited to just hear about all these great things. So without further ado, we're going to bring Debra on to hear about all her her life. Let's go.
I love it. Hello, Debra. How are you?
Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you.
You too.
And you have the best name because my mom is a Debra. Spelled a little bit differently, but
is it a Deborah?
Yeah, which.
Well, see, that's the only thing that I have an issue with. My name has to be spelled right. Deborah is a common name, but it can't be Deborah.
Are you a Deb or a Debbie or just Debra?
Other than that, I don't mind being called Deb or Debbie. I have Debbie on my car's license plate. I don't mind. I just when you're formally doing my
Debra.
name.
It's a beautiful name. It's very like royal, I feel like Debra.
I know. I said it's
like you're an actress.
Short version, guys. It's the short version.
Thanks for joining us on early.
That's my only stickler. Other than that, I'm not a stickler on it. Being called Deb or Debbie. People
okay. We'll stick with Debra. It's nice.
I'm gonna stick with Debra because I like it.
Yeah, we have connections with it. So Debra, can you give us we kind of got a little idea of this, multifaceted woman that you are. So I guess to start, because I thought, when we talked earlier this week or last week, we kind of talked about your story. It's a great story. So kind of go back to where this, interest in the pharmaceutical world or college, like all those things.
She's not a Debbie Downer.
No, Debbie Downer. Not at all.
I'm not a Debbie Downer. No.
She's a Debra. Sorry. Yes, it's your superhero origin story.
I as a kid, I was lucky. That's why I always tell people I was very lucky to be born at the time I was born to the parents that I was born to. Because my parents, typical Black parents that came from the South. Mm-hmm. My mom and dad, were in that migration of people that came from the South to the North and came to Chicago. We always laugh about, especially my cousins, how in the heck they even knew where Chicago, Illinois was, but they made it. And they had, a lot
Isn't
of.
that weird though when you think about it? Like how you get somewhere without like.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. They had cousins and family, and people talked about coming north. And when I think my mom was like 17, my dad's mom died, and he had a big sister that was here. So he came up with his big sister came and got all her little brothers and sisters and brought them to Chicago. So
that's sweet.
Yeah, it was really sweet. So with that, my parents are not the Cosbys. They were just regular Black people who came to Chicago, minimal, education. When I graduated from undergrad, my mom graduated with an associate's degree.
Wow!
Well, it was like the same. It's like the same week. She graduated, and I graduated. It was interesting, but I ended up going to mostly parochial schools in Chicago, only because my mom went to the local public school and didn't like how it looked. It's that simple. And decided, I don't want my kid to go to school. I don't like how it looks. It ran into a woman on the street who said, well, there's this Catholic school that's down the street. He's like, Catholic school? Okay, because my parents were, Baptist, like Catholic school. Okay, and went to Our Lady of Lourdes and talked to the nuns and the lay teachers there, and was impressed and said, okay, I'm sending my kid there, and that started. I went, my brothers went, and then once we went, then my parents, we went to elementary school in Catholic schools. We went to high school. We naturally went to Catholic high schools. Mm-hmm. So I tell everybody, I never went to a public school in my life until I went to the University of Illinois when I got my master's. So, and that was, a big a big event for them. That for them to be able to do that, they were the only people in their family that did. And people were always like, really? You spend all that money to send these kids to school? And it's like, it's an investment. And so, and so when I went to college first out the bunch, and when I got accepted at Northwestern, that was like, hey,
Wow.
Smarty pants.
That I was gonna say.
Smarty.
Yeah, my
didn't know where you did your undergrad.
my parents had they they felt like rock stars, and
I
graduated.
So were you the first one in your family to go to college?
I was not the first one to go, but according to on my mom's side of the family, I was the first one to actually graduate.
Ooh,
I have cousins on my father's side that are older than me that went and graduated from other universities, but on my mom's side, I was the first.
Wow,
so,
that's big.
Way to start with, like.
But I, in going to the parochial schools, I ended up having some wonderful teachers, and not a writer and I'm not an artist, but I was always good with math and science. And I always ended up with teachers who encouraged me in my love of math and science.
Yeah.
Didn't say that there was something that girls didn't supposed to do, especially Black girls.
Was your school really diverse? Or
it was diverse. My elementary school was diverse when I first started going to elementary school, but then it became more non-diverse by the time I finished.
Okay.
Were all your teachers like white women, or did you have anything?
Not
different?
all of them. A couple. In my elementary school, I had a couple of nuns, but then the most prominent person I had was my seventh grade teacher, who was white male, and he was the one who really noticed that I was, a nerd, and encouraged my nerdiness.
That's awesome.
And then on top of that, my aunt's boyfriend was doing community. He was teaching and doing like after work kind of getting people ready for GEDs, and he and my aunt always talks about her nerdy niece. He said, "How nerdy is this kid? Oh, this kid really knows some math." So my Uncle Jerry used to use me as a foil. That's why I always tell people, take this kid and take grown people and go, Deb, blah 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 math problem. I'm like, okay, cool. And I start, on the board and start figuring it out. He's like, see, this 9-year-old kid knows more about this than you all. I'm like, come on. And I was like his math foil. And,
love it.
And Mr. Walski, he did basically the same thing when I was in elementary school. And so it was really good. When I went to high school, I had great teachers too, who let me be a nerd. So by the time and so when I was thinking about going to school, back then people were like, oh, you should be a doctor. And then my then high school counselor said, ever thought about engineering? I'm like, huh? Engineering? Really? Okay, no, not really. Like, you should think about being an engineer. I'm like, okay. And she took me and Northwestern still has it. Northwestern has to stay for women in engineering. You go to school, and engineering students tell you about the various fields of engineering. She took me up there. It was the first time I had ever been on a quote unquote college campus. And I was so impressed. It was like, wow, this is interesting. And it was girls. And then I ended up getting the Northwestern student handbook and said, okay, this is how I'm going to go to this school. This was really cool. This was really nice. So I did my whole high school thing against to be able to go to Northwestern.
Wow.
Northwestern was my first choice. They
Okay.
when I was like 13.
Sounds like it.
Wow.
And I went there. And I always tell them it was a full circle moment when I ended up helping out with the women's
The women.
at Northwestern.
So were there other women? I think we talked about this. Now, how many women were in your graduating class with engineering?
Well, there was a lot of women in my graduating class. Was not a lot, but it was a significant amount of women. I happened to be just so happened because I majored in materials engineering. And
Okay.
the Department of Materials Engineering is a small department more geared towards graduate students. They had never graduated anyone Black. So I was the first African American graduate
Wow.
of the material science department.
That's huge.
That's incredible.
That's so cool.
And I laugh because this is like early 80s, late 70s. Like, you gotta be kidding. Really? I guess I just, the whole concept. But then
you were the first Steve Urkel, Debra.
Yeah, I'm like, you gotta be kidding. And you're like, oh no, really? All right.
Wow. Yeah, male or female. Wow.
Yeah. So that, and after then, they've had quite a few.
I was gonna ask, did that kind of open the floodgates?
Open the floodgates.
Through there to be the first, and then when I actually became a practicing engineer working, then I realized how similar it wasn't unusual. Because one of my friends who was in graduate school at Northwestern when I was an undergrad was the first African American who graduated from material science from MIT. And it was like in that time frame of the late 70s, early 80s, it wasn't a lot of Black engineers, still isn't.
Wow.
And it really wasn't then. And so it was when I went to work, I was like, okay, there's nobody Black. And when there's somebody Black, you were like, yay.
Yeah. So, did you see that there was that it was hard for you to get into like getting jobs? And I hate to think of this.
I graduated from Northwestern, and that's why I tell everybody I graduated. I had no problem getting a job.
That's good.
My first job was working for the IIT Research Institute here in Chicago, and then I went to graduate school at the University of Illinois. And after that, I ended up in Fortune 500 companies.
Ooh.
And have been working in Fortune 500 companies ever since I've finished graduate school. But I never had, and I always had a pretty, I did research because the material science department was graduate oriented. I did research when I was an undergrad. I worked at Argonne when I was at an undergrad. I had nice engineering internships when I was undergrad. So when I finished, it wasn't that difficult. Yeah, it wasn't that difficult to get a job. Okay. And most of the time, unless I even tell kids now that it's unusual for you not to be able to get a job as an engineer. You did something wrong. Okay. You should be able to do it. If you didn't, there's something wrong inside of your resume. I've always told students now that as an employer, we figure that you're going to have internships because it's easy to get internships as an engineer. When you're in engineering school, you should have work experience before you finish school. So you know what you like and all that kind of stuff. So and that's, I think, was the plan, was that I made sure that I had a really decent resume when I finished school, and it just kept going. So it hasn't been that difficult. I've had a really, really excellent career. I started because since I'm a nerd, I always tell people I'm a straight up nerd. I wanted to be in research initially, so all my first jobs were research based. because that's what I thought I wanted to do until I went to graduate school and then figured out, I don't know if I want to just do basic research. I want to do something that's, meaningful that people
Mhm.
relate to. So I did my PhD qualifying exam and then said, nope.
Got it.
You took your nerdiness to a whole new level.
Yeah, I took nerdiness to a whole new level. I said, nope, getting the master's. And I remember people like, but even at U of I and we would have never, these days, we'd have never let you get out of that. I'm like, I decided that I wanted to go into corporate land. I thought it was more relatable. People can, I can do something that's meaningful for society.
Right. You don't want to just stay in academia.
Yeah.
And just like what, you know what I mean? All you're doing is teaching other people that are essentially just going to stay in academia. So like, where does the cycle end? So Phaedra had mentioned that you're still involved in your sorority.
Yeah,
did you start in Northwestern
member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. and I do wonderful things. Matter of fact, that's why I had to change this tonight, is because I'm hosting for the sorority a minority health podcast after this one.
You got your podcast
about,
seriously.
Yeah, talk about minority health and what everybody should be doing to take.
We might have to have her back on for that.
I know, right? I'm like, I need to listen to this one. So, did you join this sorority at Northwestern or at Illinois?
I joined the sorority when Northwestern didn't have a Zeta chapter when I was in school. I joined sorority when I was in graduate school.
Right. Okay.
So because Northwestern there is Divine Nine at Northwestern. At the time I was at school, it was the sororities that you could belong to was either AKA Delta or Sigma Gamma Rho. And I just never had an interest. I never had an interest in AKA, and I always teased my Delta friends. I always said, you guys could have probably gotten me, but you guys did not approach me properly. So, and Zeta.
What does that mean about approaching you properly?
Means that they did not approach me properly.
Okay.
They wanted me to join, but then I was like, but why? What is this doing for me? I go to parties. I don't have to be anything. But then Zeta came to me from my nerd point of view and approached me in a way that I was like, that's interesting. Service. I did that.
Right.
What kind of things do you do? And the section, they laid out everything that they were into, and I was like, I think I can contribute, because that was my thing, is that I want to contribute. What can
it sounds like
talents can I contribute? And they came to me with that in mind. Your talents, you can contribute to the sorority like this. And it has gone on like that throughout my sorority life. We can have Deb, could you use your talents for this? Could you use your talents for that?
So you're still doing.
How was it like? Sorry to interrupt you, Phaedra. Going to a probably predominantly white high school, right? Going to Northwestern, predominantly white, in a very white major
area,
Illinois, Champaign, a white area, to then go to a sorority. How did that kind of enrich your life?
Between that and three things, I think were very instrumental. I think made me a more balanced person. Being involved in the sorority, being involved in the National Society of Black Engineers. Northwestern had a active NSB chapter. So being involved in NSB was great. And being involved in the Society of Women Engineers.
Hmm.
I was on the board, I was at Northwestern, I was the treasurer of the Northwestern section. And for some reason, I always tease people in SWE. I kept being involved in SWE. From a corporate point of view, it was easy. Most corporations that have women engineers also are involved with the Society of
Right.
Women Engineers because they want to decrease the number of women engineers in their corporations. So I was involved when I was an undergrad, when I was in graduate school. The undergraduate section of SWE needed to have an advisor. I helped the undergraduate section when I was in graduate school. When I graduated from Illinois, Chicago section got me involved in the Chicago section. When I left Chicago, because I didn't always live here, I moved to Los Angeles. People were there in LA section that had heard of me, knew about me, and got me involved in the Los Angeles section. And I became president of Los Angeles section.
Oh my God.
There, and then got talked into being on the board of SWE. So I was on the national board of SWE as the treasurer and the first vice president for like 5 or 6 years. I'm a fellow of SWE. Life member of SWE, been involved in SWE ever since I was in school. For NASB, wow. I was on the alumni board of NASB when I worked for Motorola back in the day. So I that, and then the sorority, all of that, I think has helped me as a person grow into the person that I am today. I don't think it would have been the same without any of the organization.
And that's something that some like past guest Carrie said last week too, is, and what I'm hearing especially for our women listeners is that, or watchers, whatever, I keep hearing this, like being involved in these organizations and groups that, are really emphasizing for women groups, especially, that are these women that we're all going through the same thing, and just getting involved in organizations and boards and things that are promoting and how we can share our stories and share what makes us successful in these things, all this. And so your mother and you, so everyone's kind of dealing with a lot of the same things sometimes at the same times, or if not now, maybe later. You're going to deal with this later.
Yeah, you get exposed to the one beautiful thing, especially with NASB and SWE. When I first started, I could see people who have been working as working engineers for years, and I could see how you could do it. Okay. And then and then with NASB, how you could do it as a Black person, how you could do it as a woman inside of SWE. With the sorority, it's all kinds of professional women that are in the sorority, doctors, lawyers, engineers. But it's also you see people who are excellent in their profession. And so you say, I can do this. This is not unusual. But I have 2 kids. When I saw people get pregnant and be able to hold their engineering jobs, to be able to advance in their career, no matter where they were in their personal life. So it wasn't unusual by the time I ended up getting married and having kids that I would be, it wasn't odd. I knew how that worked. I seen people that I knew who did.
So important, because they might not be at your workplace, but that they exist in there. So you talked about getting a lot of encouragement from one of your 7th grade teachers, other teachers. Work-wise, have you had formal mentors? Yeah, informal mentors.
When I tell everybody, so when I was a younger engineer, I had mentors when I was in undergrad, I always say Dean Fine at Northwestern. He's the one. Him and Julia Wortman were really instrumental in me, finishing and doing the stuff that I wanted to do after I was at undergrad. When I went to graduate school, my thesis advisor was really good. I have to. Dr. Rostocker was an excellent thesis advisor. So then, my first real job after graduate school, I ended up working for Northrop Grumman. Because the nerd in me back in the day, the best research and the best tech was happening in defense world. So I went to work for Northrop Grumman. My first boss, Steve Davidson, was really a great mentor. He was really, really good. And I ended up learning a lot from Steve. With Steve, at my first, I moved from a individual contributor engineer to running, a group of people when I was working at Northrop. And then I left Northrop and went to the West Coast and that was the first time when I went west that I actually was working with Black engineers that have been working as engineers in the defense world for decades. Like, I had not seen Black engineers who had been, who were vice presidents of, this, and had been a working engineer since, I don't know, before I was born.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, this is interesting. And then found out how it happened because, defense world back in the long day, they would get their Black engineers for historically Black colleges, because at the time that was the only schools that were allowing Black people to go to be able to be an engineer. So I was meeting guys who had graduated from like Tuskegee, North Carolina A&T, these historically Black colleges that I had never really been involved in because I went to a predominantly white college.
Right.
And so, those guys have been, they were like my parents' age, and they have been working as engineers out on the West Coast all this time. And it was sort of mind blowing to actually meet them, to be around them, to see how much they had from a career point of view advanced, and how they were always saying how lucky you people are. Like, okay, yeah, sure. I tell everybody I became an engineer at a good time.
Yeah.
So we have a question, and this is a great question. Do you find that the effort focus that goes into training is undervalued from a company point of view? Dr. Truth.
It depends on what industry you're in. I take pharma, for example, and I've been involved in high tech pharma, high tech defense and technology companies most of my career. Training is very important to us. We, having a development plan, and even though I have been a career forever and a day, I still train and I still learn things. And one is good for me, and it's actually excellent for the company. And the company also encourages that. But I know not all industries are like that.
Nope.
And not all places are going to encourage you to go out and train. But no matter what, you should always learn. That's always been my mantra. Learn, because it benefits you. Helpful for the company, but it's also beneficial to you. So that you can, move in the way that you want to move through your career. No matter if it may cause you to leave that particular company, but no matter, you are then prepared to do something that you want to do. So I've always been a real strong advocate for training, but I've also been very lucky that the companies that I've been involved in also like you to be trained well too.
Absolutely. So you had talked about your mentors. Have you had any mentees? I'm sure you have, but
Oh,
kind of talk about
yeah.
acquiring mentees throughout your career.
Oh yeah, I've required a lot of people who it's like, tell me how you did it. Can you help me?
How does it feel? You know what I mean?
And
When they
not
come
and
to you.
I mean even when I was younger, the people that were in different fields. How did you go into this field? Just tell you what I did. Now I have my kids' friends because my kids like hype up their mom. So
Good.
They should. I
They
mean,
totally
they
should.
know about you. My
Absolutely.
God, yeah. I would.
any
You know who
aspiring
your mom is, kid?
yeah, any aspiring techie,
Yeah.
anybody who wants to go into the sciences, you need to talk to my mother. My mother, and so
Um,
I've guided a bunch of my kids' friends and what
good.
they wanted to do and how they approached their careers, helped get a couple of them some jobs and things like that. So yeah,
That's
I've had my
fantastic.
share of mentors in both sweet stuff, Nesby stuff,
Mm-hmm.
just in general, sorority,
Yep.
everybody. So and that's good. If I can be of help to somebody, I try to be.
Do you and the sorority women, I've heard about your little trips that you guys take. Sounds so fun. So aside, so you can talk a little bit about that too, but do you all still do philanthropic work and are still helping?
Yeah,
That
I
word
mean,
is always,
yeah, like tonight, I'm gonna.
yo,
It's philanthropy to use all
yeah,
because it's not only me. It's going to be a panel of people with
okay.
doctors and people who are involved in healthcare. They're going to talk about what we believe would be a good thing for minority health and how you should approach
Mm,
if you have this or that or that. So that's philanthropy. My my section in my chapter inside of
sure.
Zeta, we give scholarships to high school students in the Evanston North Shore area to help them go through college.
Oh,
We
good to
do
know.
all kind of we read books to elementary school
So
students
fun.
during
Yeah.
for to help promote reading. We do all kind of wonderful little stuff around in and around the Evanston community to help the community do what they do. Basketball game. There's a big in Evanston we have a FAM, which is a basketball team thing that's done by people inside of the community. We go in there and sling pancakes when they're having their when they're having their
Pancakes are
basketball
important.
tournament so that they can do their thing, help them raise money. So yeah, I still do a lot of philanthropy. I my parents passed away about 6 years ago.
Mm.
Uh, my my father ended up owning his own construction business.
Mm.
When
Mm,
after all of this,
mm.
him and his brothers they owned one, and my father, did a lot of work inside of Chicago. So when he passed, I wanted to do something to remind people in his name. So for University of Illinois, I do a scholarship for my father in his name for the civil engineering department of the
Okay.
University of Illinois at Chicago.
Love
While
it.
I,
Wow.
give away money, and then my mom was like the world's greatest little gardener. So for the Garfield Park Conservatory on the west side,
Mm-hmm.
I gave money to them in her name so that they could do their programming. She worked for the Chicago Public Schools. They could have kids come in to see the gardens. So that was like,
That's
yeah, that kind of stuff.
incredible.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I just took my Deborah there for the first time in November. And she was a big fan. I'm from Michigan, so you know they're not from around here. But yep, first time that Debra went to the Garfield Conservatory. Beautiful. I was
It's a
a big fan
beautiful
of
place.
it. It's a very beautiful thing.
I haven't been. Now I'm gonna go. Like,
yeah,
it is.
I'm gonna go.
It's a beautiful place. My mom's got a bench that sits in the little quiet area where they have the fountain that with her
Yes.
name on it.
Love that.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I have to go back. And what was your mom's name?
My mom's name is Melva Jean Albert, so it'll be a bench that says "In my mother's garden" and it has her name on it. So,
oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, I got 50 million cousins and stuff. Every time they come into the city, they're like, where is it? So
yeah, I bet.
Go sit on the bench, contemplate life, look at the wonderful flowers. Every time I go there, it's said, I say, yeah, this is, my mom would like this because she loved her lovely garden. That was her thing.
I love that.
Awesome.
Yeah. So with all that you do for work and all these organizations and the volunteering, when do you find time to train for a marathon?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I've done 9 marathons. The kids are
good for you.
And I started doing them. My first one was before I got married, had any kids. I was living in California, and I had started running along the Strand in LA and the South Bay. There's a along the beach. It's called the Strand, and I started running, and I had started getting good at it. It's like, oh, this is cool. I'm good at this. Hey, I wonder.
Look at this nerd being good at running.
Look at this nerd running.
Let me run a race.
Long distance runners are nerds completely 100%. Though.
That too. And so I'm like, okay, I ran a race. I go, oh, that was good. That 5K was pretty nice. Let me try 10. And then I was like, I wonder if I could run a marathon. And if I did run a marathon, what marathon would I run? And I go, oh, wow. Wait, I wonder. Because I totally clueless. Does Chicago have a marathon? Because I didn't know. Ooh, damn, I never knew. Because I didn't. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go home and run the marathon. And then mom and dad can see me run. And my father and mother went, what the hell? 26 miles.
Why?
I still say that. I'm like, why?
You know you don't have to.
Why are you punishing yourself?
The first words out their mouth. Why? Because, Mom. Just because. Really? You sure? Don't get yourself hurt.
Marathons are ran in honor of someone that ran 26.2 miles and then died.
Yes.
So I ran Chicago and then got hooked. That's why I tell people I ran. I went, well, I'll be damned. And my parents said, she didn't die. I go, I didn't die. Wow. I wonder, what can I do next? And then I ran New York. And then that just sort of started a thing.
Oh my gosh.
For a minute. My life, I met somebody, got married, said I'm going to then I'm going to have some kids. Then I got to have kids. And then when the kids were, Pay was like 6 or 7, and Will, I think, was about 3 or 4. And it's like, you know what? Let me see. How can I do this? I want another marathon. And the kid's like, marathon? Really? Mommy's going to run a marathon. I go, yeah, Mommy's going to run a marathon. So I would get up like the crack of dawn, run in the dark, get the kids ready to go to school, get myself ready to go to work, and then come back, run in the dark, and then say, I'm gonna run the Chicago Marathon. And the kids are like, yeah, we're gonna be at the end. And they were at the end. Mom!
That is incredible.
And so then it started me running again on a pretty regular basis. I ran then, a couple of years later, I ran another. Next thing I knew, I ran 9.
I love it. So Dr. Truth has another question too. So asking, do you ever run the full distance training? I heard you don't. You
don't.
But I'm curious. But what is your prep? So I know.
Well, I tell everybody I use a standard marathon training program that builds up your mileage so that you end at 20 and then you taper. Because so I've a member of Chicago Area Runners Association.
Okay.
I have trained with them, and I follow their training programs when I run the marathon.
It's a great program. So I've heard.
Yeah.
And then as the kids got older, it got easier. So because I didn't have to. So the last one I ran in my mom's name.
I was going to ask if you've done any foundations and stuff like that.
I did one for one time I ran Chicago for Princess Women's Hospital because I had my kids there. So I ran.
And it's Northwestern.
I ran there for them one year, and then my mom had Alzheimer's. So then I ran for the Alzheimer's Association for the last marathon I ran in her name. So that was great.
That's incredible.
That is really great.
I ran track in college, but I ran the 400. So I didn't do that crazy
Not
stuff
quite.
that you people do.
You people, yeah.
I tell everybody, it's the back to the nerd thing. It triggered
the goal. It does.
It's a goal thing.
I mean, whatever. So you've ran Chicago and New York.
I ran Chicago, New York. I've done the Tri-Cities. I did LA, but I've done the Chicago the most. I have that lifetime Chicago. I can run Chicago anytime I want to. I don't have to go to the lottery kind of deal.
You have two out of the big 6, right?
Yeah, I know, and I did Boston too. So
you did do Boston.
Yeah. So I have.
How did you not say that?
So I know people are like, all you have to do is go to London and then pick up, go to Germany and do
Berlin and Tokyo.
Germany, and then end up in Tokyo and do Tokyo, and then you have the big time.
There you go.
I know. Maybe when I retire.
Listen,
because I got friends who are runners. One of the people, I'm a member of the Evanston Running Club, and one of the big time, those guys, there's people that are like in their 80s and they're killing it. They're running faster than people who are 20. So it's a couple of people there that have done the Abbott thing 3 or 4 times, and they're like 70 and 80 years old. Like I said, hopefully if I don't do anything and mess my legs up, I'll be like you and I can do it when I retire or something.
So, spoiler, our guest next week is the first woman from Ghana to do the Abbott 6. So
wow.
She just did it this year. Just
saying,
if you need to hear of women that have done it,
don't start. See, you'll give me.
She's so good at that. All of a sudden this year, I'm going to be running and doing all these things, and I was like, I'm never going to do that. And every time she's like, she gets this look on her face. Every single episode, she's like, but did you know? She gets this look in her eye, and I'm like, here we go. I'm going to be doing something else crazy that I don't want to do.
I got a guest last week.
It's who does tries. He's like, look, you run, you ride a bike, throw in some swimming. I'm like, no.
So we have a question.
You know how to swim? I go, yes, I do. I do. But the whole concept of being thrown in the water with people
that are trying to hit around you. That's a lot.
That's too much.
Our question is: any of the cities harder than the other? So, of your marathons, which was the hardest?
Boston.
Heartbreak Hill.
I've heard that. Is it
Heartbreak Hill? Break your heart.
Boston.
I've heard some people say that New York is pretty hard too.
Oh, no, New York. New York is hard because you run the bridges. See, that's what people don't
Yeah.
really understand.
Oh,
Is that
mhm.
you once you go in, you start at Staten Island, and you got to go over a bridge to get
And
to
bridges
to
go
Brooklyn,
up.
and then you got to go over another bridge to go into Queens, and then you got to come out of Queens and go into the bridge to get into Manhattan, and then once you come over Queensboro Bridge, you got to go straight up First Avenue, like a straight. Once you get there, it's like it feels like it's vertical. You're like, wait.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're like, it's vertical.
That's
It was
terrible.
That's second.
Second, and FYI, I was just reading a little bit earlier this year of the rating of the Abbott 6, and they said Berlin is actually easier than Chicago. So
Okay,
Get me here.
stop. I'm not listening.
You're going to listen. It's been said right here on April 10th. You are going to Berlin.
Please, then you have me in Berlin. Like, really? Ooh.
Look, I'm just saying, because, and the reason is it's just about as flat as Chicago, but for the time of year, they said that the weather tends to be more predictable, and there's less turns.
Really?
So that is what the analysis.
All right, Debra, we'll see you in Berlin.
Damn.
Look, just let me know. My dad is from Germany. You can go to my motherland and go.
There you go.
Get some history there. Go see the Berlin Wall.
So much to do.
I'm just saying.
You can bring your sorority girls with you.
Yes, that would be.
No, I got my running clique.
You're running.
She's got the running clique. Yeah.
Got the clique. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of my because Zayas had heart, they're serious, but because it's one sister that's about to do an Ironman, but it's a few serious that are in the sorority, but not locally, which is why I always tease. But they like, we be out there to cheer you on, sis. But to actually do it, oh no.
That's how I would be too, for sure. Cheering on.
Listen,
all I'm saying is that
because my neighbor down the street or around the corner has done. Now, she didn't tell me that part. She didn't tell me how it was easier.
Well, they rated about the same. And I will say Debra, my mother, when she first went to Germany in the 70s, she said Berlin was like the cat's meow. That was the exact term she said. So she loved Berlin.
In my corporate life, I spent a lot of time in Germany. So yes, Germany is a fabulous place. I spent more time in Wiesbaden and Frankfurt area at the time than Berlin, but yeah, they have their. It's a thing about Europe and Americans. That's why I always tease people. I say it's always interesting to go to Europe. They always find American women as interesting. That's why I'll say it like that.
Yeah, yes, they do.
Just saying, September 28th, 2025 is the Berlin Marathon.
That's timely though, really. I tease everybody. People are like, well, I said I don't trade for marathons in the dead of winter, except for that. The only reason why I ended up doing the Boston
because you have to train it.
One time that they actually did it in the fall. I'm like,
what was that?
Yes, because of COVID. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this thing because this will be the only time that I'm not going to be running around in Chicago in the snow.
And another marathon. I mean, I hear a lot of people like Grandma's Marathon, but so I'm from Ann Arbor, but the Detroit Marathon people are a fan of because you run over the Ambassador Bridge into Canada and then come back. So get your little passport ready. So just suggesting,
I know. I've heard about this already. People, you got to do that. You got to go there because
the Houston one's supposed to be really fast.
After you come back, I'm like, yeah, okay. I know. See, now you're working The running
influencer over here.
I know. I guess I do
athlete
get
that I am. I
get a little twinkle in my eye. And
yeah.
You do. But it's not a twinkle. It's just like a look of like, ooh, what am I going to do today? Like, I'm going to make, you're like a little leprechaun. Like,
here, make
yes, like,
ooh.
Ideas.
You're like a little devious.
Yes.
I know. Deborah, before I ask you more questions, what time is your other podcast?
7.
Oh, it is at 7.
Yeah.
So I have
last
you for like one more minute.
Yeah.
Okay. I love it. So, you know, at your pharmaceutical company, you know, what you're doing now, if we see you in a year, besides having another marathon on the calendar, career-wise, or, you know, what is kind of your goal, right, for the year?
What's my goal for this year?
You know, if you had a vision board, if you had something that you
I
wanted
do
to
vision boards.
Oh, I knew it.
Yeah.
So what is on the 2024 vision board?
Well, Africa was on the 2024 vision board, and I went to Africa last month. I have never been to Africa. I have been to almost every continent in the world except for Africa.
Where did you go?
I went to Ghana. My
it is the Ghana marathon.
My aunt, the African queen, says you have to go there first. That is the first place to go. I was like,
yeah.
So we were talking about my diva buddies.
Yeah. I heard that was a great trip. So
it was absolutely fabo. They did the job. We had a great time. It was very meaningful to go with a bunch of Black women. So it really was. Everybody, we were all touched. It was a big thing. I ended up getting my African name and the whole bit.
What is your African name?
I am Asuka.
Asuka.
So I was in the Ashanti religion. You are each day of the week has a name. Most Ashantis incorporate that name into their name. So I was born on a Monday, and that means me Asuka.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you so much. Well, Deborah, I'm going to let you get to your other podcast, even though I would love to keep talking.
I know, right?
But I so much enjoyed our time together.
I enjoyed this too. This was so fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Very much. It was so much fun.
Thank you. We'll
All right. Have fun tonight. Talk soon.
I will.
Right.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye. I love her.
I know, she's got like so much fun things to say, like to talk about, like her just, and I feel like we just like scratched the surface. There could have been like,
I'm gonna have to have her on again.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about pharmaceuticals.
We didn't
even talk about the health stuff.
No, but I feel like that is gonna be, and then just hearing what she's talking about tonight, I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty magical. That could be a great.
Kind of want to get a copy of that one.
I know.
So yeah, we'll have to do a part 2 with her. But I get excited when I hear about people, and that's such like, you know, Ghana. She just was in Ghana. We have their woman from Ghana next week. Everyone's marathon runners, and
oh my goodness! See, so you got a little fill of your fitness today, your athletics.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, but it's like she said, right, and you said, it doesn't have to be an athlete. It's just a woman. And, you know, I especially love to see Black women that have succeeded in something that they're the first, right? Like no one else was there before them, because that is such an important thing for future generations to see women that already have done it. So it makes it possible. So, you know, as she was talking about her sororities, her associations, like she's not necessarily always the first. She can see other people that have done it. And it just makes the world like,
but I love the so something, you know, that I thought about, and even with my friend Sharon that talked about that referred these 2 women to us, you know, she is part of and I've known her for like over 20 years. And she's always had coaches and for like her work. And she's always been involved in women's group and the real estate groups and the this and that. And for so long, you know, when I was younger, so when I was in like my 20s, I was like, God, you're so involved with so many things and it takes up so much of your time. And I guess I was kind of like, you're so good at what you do. I don't get it, which the groups, but then you get to meet women and, you know, women like this and men and just people in general. And these last 2 weeks, and I mean, every week we've had somebody on that's been fantastic, I know, same, but having these two women come because of that, she's part of, you know, it just goes to show for me in any industry that you're in, whether, you know, and regardless of being a woman, you know, or a man, like get involved in groups and, you know, and in boards and things that make differences. And that because these things also, because when you're involved with a lot of these groups, there's dues, right? They cost money to be a part of, but at the end of the year, it's you know, the connections that you make. And I think I've talked to her about Sharon about this, is that the connections that you make and the education you're getting, not just from maybe the leader of the group, but the individuals that are in it. And, you know, as Debra said tonight, just seeing, you know, you weren't a mother, you see mothers that have made it, and then you become a mother, and then you get to help women that are going to be mothers later on. And, you know, and then the people that she said that were her parents' age, that she was
the black men that that were,
oh my God, like what a history.
Right. Like he got like, because those men came from a time where they only could, you know, could go to, like, to
they were like put in this bubble.
And they said, you know what? Fuck it. We're just going to go plow through. And it's incredible, right? To, you know, you think about it, like talking about first time on college campus. I grew up in a college town, you know what I mean? So it's so different, you know what I mean? For people that are like either the first college in their family, or, you know, maybe like people went to like more like local things, but to like go to a big, grand, major university campus. Yeah. They are beautiful. There is a lot of history to it, right? And it's also something to be said too, how, you know, Black sororities and fraternities, those are lifetimes. You know what I mean? Like people join those. Like, let's be real. A lot of other sororities and fraternities are to have a good time in college. Just ask my dad about his life at Michigan. You know what I mean? It wasn't to do the service and to do this, right? It was to cause a little bit of chaos and, you know, do things that...
And experience college the fun way or whatever.
It was the 70s, man, at University of Michigan. Take your best guess, and that's it.
You might have to have him on. No, I'm just kidding.
My dad's actually he's a great storyteller.
I bet.
The thing about my dad is he's a man of like few words, but when he does talk, we are still getting stories to this day where my mom's like, what? Who are you?
It's like, that's hysterical. I love that.
I think one of the more recent ones we learned, he was like, you know, when my mom had me like smuggling in leather goods from Europe into the US, she was like, what? Because he did his mom don't pay. So when he was in Europe, they would like beat up the leather to make it look used. And so when you bring it back to the States, you have to declare it.
That is wild. Wow, go dad. Okay, so you have a felon as a father now. We know that's
also
amazing.
Learned that he used to make fake IDs too.
You're like, Dad, where were you when I needed you?
And apparently great bongs. I mean,
hey, your dad is multi-talented.
It was the 70s, okay?
Yeah, and IDs really weren't that hard to make back then. There was
no, and it was also like, you know, what Debra was talking about, the nerds that are in engineering. He was a computer science guy. He was but he's like, I want to meet girls. He went to an all boys boarding school for high school. It's like, I want to meet girls. So this dude did a double major in German because that's his native language.
Wow.
And guess where he met my mom?
at a German bar?
In German
Oh,
class.
in Germany. Oh, in German
No,
class.
in German class.
So he didn't get to use all of it because he met your mom, and then it was
He did perfectly, exactly. So,
that
anyways,
was great.
But I don't know how I got on that tangent. But anyways,
That's okay. That's what we do. That's a long. We went like through a lot of hills and valleys for that.
It was good for that one. Don't even know where that one went.
It's okay because it brings us back to we're going to see Debra in Berlin in 2025 or
September 28th, 2025. So that is 2 days before my birthday.
Oh.
And I have wanted to go to Oktoberfest.
I know, I do too. I actually really want to go to Oktoberfest. I'm not running a marathon though, so don't be like, I have an idea. Let's go run a marathon and then go to Oktoberfest.
That's not my
idea.
Doing
it. Okay,
but
good.
Maybe next year we drop over, check out Oktoberfest. Like just we don't need to do, like I only want to take a day or do a quick little Munich. Go to Tübingen because that's where my mom did her study abroad, and she met her college. One of her best friends from like 50 years, she met him when they were both doing study abroad in Tübingen. He went to MIT. So, he goes there, and Hamburg, that's my mom's favorite city.
Oh, yeah.
And then just stop over in Berlin.
There we go.
And watch Debra.
There you go. We'll have to think that because that is my homeland as well.
That's right. Exactly.
So not really sure where though. I have to figure out like where in Germany like my grandparents were from, but
we're not going to where my dad is from, and that's okay. He's from.
That's okay.
Yeah,
it's all the same.
He grew up in Cologne, Dusseldorf area, very industrial.
Oh yeah.
Not necessary.
I feel like that sounds familiar.
Claudia
I feel like that might have been.
Dusseldorf.
Wouldn't it be amazing if we were like related in some way? Like that would be hilarious.
You probably are.
Who knows? We probably could be.
So we're probably like 23rd cousins.
Yeah, 23rd cousins for sure. Yep.
So basically, we're sisters.
We're cousins. That's cool. We found each other.
We did.
Amazing.
I love this so much.
So do I. This is great. And so, you, Miss Lady, take care of your foot and your ankle. And I'm not rushing off to bed right now because it's only 7:10.
Oh,
and it's still light out. Really light out.
I am actually going to, 23andMe cousins. Honestly, we probably are.
If I'm on Ancestry, I'm on Ancestry.com. So if you are,
I'm on 23andMe, but
you're on 23andMe. All right, we'll figure it out.
We're gonna have to figure this one out.
We'll figure it out.
And I was actually thinking about ordering German food tonight because I need
to order. From where? Lincoln Square?
Yeah, so there's this place in Lincoln Square. I'd have to look up the name, but they order off Uber Eats, and their chicken schnitzel is this platter. I can get 3 servings out of this.
Wow. Oh, yeah, because German food is they just pile it in there.
Well, it's just like because I've ordered there for my parents. Like their Sauerbraten and ours, it's just like a regular size, but for some reason their chicken schnitzel is a massive platter. So I just get it with an extra side of some fried potatoes. Not as
there you go.
Gas, but they're up there. And then I basically pay for delivery one time, and I have 3 meals. It's like I'm about to go to Connecticut for 2 weeks. Anyways, I don't want to leave a ton of groceries here. So
no, absolutely not. Well, enjoy your schnitzel or your schnitzel or whatever it's called. And actually, no, I'm kind of grooving on. I kind of feel like I want some like sauerkraut and some tartare, some beef tartare.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go eat dinner myself. So enjoy your food from Germany, and thank you.
This has been a Chicago Clubhouse Network production.
Bye.